welcome to the Deep Dive. If you're looking ahead to the 2025 presidential election in Cameroon, well, you're probably swimming in political noise right now. So many big ideas, huge projects, promises. It can feel almost impossible to tell what's real policy and what's just talk.
Exactly. And that's really why we're here today. Our goal is simple. Cut through all that noise. We want to focus purely on rigor, on evidence. We're diving deep into this detailed academic analysis from the Economic Policy Management Program, the GPE, at the University of Yaoundé II.
GPE, okay.
Yeah, think of it as a public service assessment, really. It was coordinated by Professor Vivian and Duyue Baiwol, with Professor Bekolo Ibi Bruno supervising scientifically. They spent 10 really intensive days creating a tool for you, the voter, to help make a truly informed, responsible choice.
10 days. That's serious commitment from academic experts just digging into manifestos. Impressive. So before we jump into the findings, maybe set the context. Which candidates, which programs did they actually look at?
Right. So the GPE initially, they were aiming for 12 candidates. But in the end, the full, really comprehensive analysis was possible for only 10.
Oh, why only 10?
Well, apparently the programmatic documents for two parties, the UNDP and the UDC, just weren't available when they did the study. It happens. But honestly, even with 10, the results give a pretty comprehensive and frankly, brutally honest look at the quality of political planning on offer right now.
Okay, so let's get into the how. How did they do it? I mean, evaluating a nation's entire future, debt, health, jobs, everything. How do you even start to assess that objectively? You need a framework, right?
Absolutely. You need a solid structure. They use something called multi-criteria decision analysis, or MCDA. Now, it sounds a bit technical, I know.
Yeah, a little.
But it's actually a well-recognized international method. Use it when you have complex decisions with multiple goals, and crucially, those goals often conflict with each other.
Okay, conflict how? Give me an example.
Think about it. A program might promise massive social spending, right? Which sounds great, high impact, but then it maybe doesn't detail how it's going to be paid for. So that's low feasibility. MCDA lets the analyst weigh those kinds of trade-offs using a rigorous mathematical model.
Ah, okay. So it stops one flashy promise from overshadowing maybe a fatal flaw somewhere else. Like it prevents the loudest policy from automatically winning.
Precisely. It ensures no single factor, like maybe just the party's fame or name recognition, can skew the final score unfairly. It forces a balanced view.
Makes sense. Trading off cost versus impact, dreams versus reality. So what were the actual criteria? You said 5.
Yes, 5 core criteria. And importantly, they were all equally weighted, each scored from 0 to 4. First up was relevance. Basically, does the program actually tackle the country's documented needs? And does it align with the official National Development Strategy, the SND30?
SND30, that's the big national plan up to 2030, right?
That's the one. So it provides a kind of baseline check for consistency. Is this proposal swimming with the current or against it for no good reason?
Got it. Relevance. What was number 2? You mentioned one was the nerve center.
Ah, yes, feasibility. This is often where the rubber meets the road. Good intentions are, well, they're free. Implementation costs real money and takes real capacity. So can this policy actually be implemented? You have to consider the budget constraints, the institutional realities on the ground. This criterion forces candidates to face the hard numbers on the national ledger.
Right, the can we actually do this and can we afford it?
Yeah.
Test. Okay, what else?
Third was impact. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
What are the expected measurable effects on growth, on jobs, on people's general well-being?
Measurable being the key word there, I imagine.
Definitely. No vague promises allowed here. Fourth was capacity. Do we have the people, the technical skills the institutions needed? Or if not, does the program explicitly budget for building that capacity it needs to be planned for?
Okay, capacity. And the last one?
Finally, number 5 was experience. Here, they looked at the history of the party itself and the political track record of its leader. Essentially, how well do they seem to understand the state machinery, the way things actually work? Relevance,
Feasibility, impact, capacity, experience.
Right.
That is a pretty demanding framework. Sets a high bar. So now we have the method. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Seeing how the candidates actually stacked up against Cameroon's biggest challenges.
Exactly. But before the scores, we need to quickly paint the picture of those challenges. The GPE structured their analysis around 6 key sectors. It gives you a sense of the national context first.
Makes sense. Let's start with the big one, macroeconomic stability, the overall health of the economy.
Okay, so Cameroon's situation here is, let's say, contrasted or mixed. Growth is moderate, projected around, 3.9% for 2025? That's not bad. But, and it's a big but, the economy is heavily reliant on what the GPE terms the tertiary sector of the poor.
Tertiary sector of the poor. Can you unpack that a bit? What does that mean practically?
It means a large part of the economy is made up of low-wage, often informal service jobs. Think street vendors, small shops with low productivity. This kind of structure means less reliable tax income for the government, and it makes growth structurally slower, maybe less resilient to shocks.
Okay, so moderate growth, but maybe fragile foundations. What else?
Well, inflation is another issue. It hit 4.5% recently in 2024, which is notably above the CMAC standard of 3%.
CMAC being the Regional Economic Community.
Correct. The Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa, they set that 3% target for regional stability. So exceeding it is a concern. Now, faced with these specific challenges, the analysis found the RDPC scored highest on macroeconomic stability, getting a 12.50.
Okay, 12.50 for RDPC on macro stability. Let's move to public finance. This is where promises meet the budget reality, right? How strained are the government's finances?
Very. That's the short answer. Public spending structurally runs ahead of revenues. That creates a persistent deficit. And while the public debt, around 40% of GDP, might look manageable compared to some countries globally, it definitely limits the government's room to maneuver, especially for big new spending.
And wasn't there something about government payments being late?
Yes, a critical point. The level of government payment arrears, they call them RAP, is increasing. These RAP aren't just, an accounting headache. They actively harm the economy. Small and medium businesses waiting for government payments get squeezed, sometimes badly. It slows down the whole private sector.
That sounds like a serious drag. So in this tricky area, who did the GPE find showed the most realism or fiscal discipline?
Here we saw something interesting, a tie, actually. Both the RDPC and the SDF scored 13.20. The analysis suggested they both had the most serious recognition of these financial constraints and proposed plausible mechanisms for managing public finances better.
A tie at the top for finance. Okay, now, governance and corruption. We hear a lot about the business climate being a hurdle. How bad is it according to the data?
Difficult is putting it mildly. Cameroon ranked a really dismal 166 worldwide in the 2019 Doing Business report. That tells you a lot. Corruption is seen as persistent. There are estimates, and they vary, but some suggest the damage from corruption can exceed 100 billion FCFA.
Wow. Over 100 billion. That's not just a number. That's, roads not built, clinics without medicine.
Exactly. It's tangible development loss.
Yeah.
And this is the area where we saw that huge outlier score you mentioned earlier, right?
Remind me who that was.
It was the SDF. They achieved a spectacularly high score here, 15.60, just way ahead of everyone else. The GP7 report specifically noted their proposals on tackling corruption and improving governance were particularly strong, detailed, and focused on structural reforms, addressing the root causes of that poor business climate.
We have 2.6, yeah, that really stands out. Okay, let's shift gears to human capital. Health, poverty, jobs, the things that affect people's daily lives most directly.
And the challenges here are, frankly, immense. It reflects decades of perhaps underinvestment. The national poverty rate was still high at 37.7% back in 2022. And this next statistic is just staggering. Universal health coverage, the CSU system, it only covered about 3% of the population at the time of the study.
Only 3%.
Wow.
That says so much about the average family's vulnerability to, just getting sick.
It really does. So across this whole human capital front, health, poverty reduction, employment strategies, the RDPC received the best overall evaluation from the GPE, scoring 13.55.
RDPC leading on human capital.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the engine of the economy? Industrial transformation, making things, processing things.
The GPE analysis uses strong language here. It talks about a decay of the industrial fabric. The secondary sector manufacturing industry, its share of GDP has dropped dramatically, from around 37% down to only 20%.
So less making, more of that low productivity service sector you mentioned earlier.
That seems to be the trend. Less value addition within the country. On this front, again, the RDPC leads with a score of 13.13, though the SDF was noted as being quite close behind here at 12.40. So both seem to be giving serious thought to these productive sector challenges.
Okay, and the last sector, ecological transition. the environment. Is this finally becoming a major focus, or is it still on the back burner?
It feels like it's still largely secondary based on this analysis. The GPE noted overall pretty weak consideration by most parties. The RDPC did get the best score, 13.20, but the general take was that the topic is globally underdeveloped in the programs.
So mostly just basic nods to renewables or CO2, rather than a deep integrated strategy.
That seems to be the case. Not yet a comprehensive, ambitious plan for national sustainability across the board in most manifestos.
Right. So that sectoral breakdown shows specific strengths, like SDF on governance, RDPC often leading elsewhere, but also critical weaknesses like the environment. But let's zoom out now. What was the big picture finding? The overall scores revealed this huge range in quality, didn't they? This marked heterogeneity and a massive credibility gap, as the GPE called it.
Absolutely massive. When they tallied up the scores across all criteria, all sectors, the 10 candidates really did fall into 3 quite distinct groups or zones.
Okay, let's hear them. Starting at the top, Group 1.
Group 1 was defined as upper intermediate scores, basically, anyone scoring above 11 out of 20 overall. Only 2 candidates made it into this group. The RDPC leading the pack with a final average score of 13.05, and the SDF not far behind them at 11.67.
And what set those two apart?
Generally, their programs showed better structure, better coherence, and crucially, a much better integration of those economic and institutional constraints we talked about. They passed the feasibility test much more convincingly than the others.
Okay, so RDPC and SDF at the top. And there must have been a bigger middle group, Group 2.
Yes, Group 2, the lower intermediate scores, was definitely more crowded. This covered scores ranging from 8 up to just under 11. This group included, PL at 10.40, PCRN with 10.05, FDC getting 9.97, PURS at 8.8, and MCNC with 8.54.
So a real cluster in that middle range,
Yeah.
which leaves Group 3 at the bottom.
Correct. Group 3 had scores below 8 out of 20. That included the FSNC scoring 7.78 and Univers at 6.58. And for this group, the GPE's assessment was pretty blunt. Proposals were often judged to be absent on key issues or completely unquantified or just, unrealistic in the Cameroonian context.
Wow. The difference between the leader, RDPC at 13.05, and the lowest, Univers at 6.58, it's almost double. It really highlights the difference between what looks like a serious plan and maybe just a political wish list. But what's really fascinating, I think, is why the leaders pull ahead and how their strengths differ, why RDPC and SDF, but in seemingly different ways.
That's a key point. The RDPC's big advantage seems to be consistency. Their scores were pretty solid, generally above 11, across almost all the different criteria and sectors. The GPE study suggests this likely comes from their, long experience in power, an intimate knowledge of how the state apparatus works, the macroeconomic balances, maybe privileged access to international expertise from the IMF, the World Bank.
Well, so that gives them an edge on feasibility and experience because they understand the existing system.
Exactly. They know the levers, the constraints, the institutional plumbing, so to speak.
But hang on, is that deep knowledge always a positive? Or could it also mean they know how to work around problems rather than tackling the deep reforms needed? Does experience sometimes equal inertia? How did the GPE weigh that?
That is a really critical question, and the GPE analysis kind of touches on this distinction through the SDF's profile. While the RDPC shows perhaps superior technical capacity drafting plans that fit international standards, the SDF's standout strength, remember that 15.60 on governance points to a different path. Their focus is explicitly on tackling that institutional inertia, the corruption, the blockages.
Ah, I see. So the SDF prioritizes fixing the system itself.
It seems so. Their high score there suggests a mandate for deep structural reform, dismantling the very hurdles that perhaps the RDPC is more accustomed to navigating. So you have, in a way, 2 different routes to credibility being presented. One through mastering the existing system, the other through fundamentally reforming it.
That's a fascinating contrast. Okay, so if those are the strengths of the leaders, let's flip it. What were the major recurring weaknesses, especially in groups 2 and 3? Why did so many programs fail that crucial feasibility test?
The GPE report highlights 2 major structural flaws that kept cropping up in the lower scoring programs. Flaw number 1, insufficient macroeconomic integration.
What does that actually look like on paper? Lack of integration.
It means the program feels like a collection of separate ideas rather than a coherent overall vision. There's no clear thread linking economic stability with productive transformation, with sustainability, with governance reforms. They don't connect the dots. But maybe more worryingly, it often means they present this big wish list of spending without showing the financial plumbing needed to support it.
So no realistic plan for how to pay for it all.
Often, yes. They might rely on overly optimistic, frankly unsupported assumptions about future economic growth generating enough revenue. Or they just fail entirely to detail how the money will be raised year after year to fund these promises without, blowing up the budget or causing an instability crisis. You see this starkly in the really low scores some candidates got in that macro category. Universe, for example, only scored 3.17 there, disconnected from the economic reality.
High hopes, but no credible financial roadmap. Got it. What was the second major flaw?
The second big one was a deficit in capacity and feasibility. This really gets back to the failure of the how will this actually get done. For Group 2, the middle group, the GPE often noted insufficient precision. Maybe the financing mechanisms weren't detailed enough, or the timelines were vague, or there was a clear underestimation of the real budgetary constraints, like the FDC, for instance. The GPE might have seen their strategy as relevant, but if it lacked detailed implementation steps and timelines, well, a relevant plan without a deadline is just a nice idea, isn't it?
Right. Still more of a dream than a plan.
Yeah.
And for the lowest scores, Group 3, was it even worse?
Yes. For them, proposals were frequently flagged as simply unrealistic given the state's current abilities. The feasibility score was often noted as weak or even very weak because there was maybe a complete lack of credible funding sources mentioned, or the timelines proposed were just not achievable with existing capacity. It showed a fundamental disconnect from the practical realities of governing.
This really brings us back to a core issue, doesn't it? The GPE analysis seems to confirm that fixing the institutions, tackling corruption, these are prerequisites for anything else to work effectively. Were these foundational issues addressed properly by most candidates?
Sadly, no. And that's arguably one of the most significant takeaways from the entire study. The GPE concludes that the majority of candidates don't sufficiently address administrative modernization or the fight against corruption in a deep, structural way. And yet, as you say, these reforms are absolutely imperative. How can any government credibly promise effective policy delivery when the underlying institutional engine is so weak? Remember that business climate ranking, a 166th. Fixing the institutional foundation has to come first, or at least alongside everything else.
We've covered the scores, the strengths, the weaknesses. If you had to boil it down, what's the single most important actionable takeaway for someone listening to this, trying to make sense of the election promises?
The core takeaway, I think, is that massive credibility gap. It starkly reveals that, based on this rigorous academic assessment, only 2 candidates are currently offering programs that show serious integrated potential for actual implementation. And for all candidates wanting to achieve genuine, sustainable transformation for Cameroon, the GPE is clear. They must strengthen coherence between different policy areas. They must provide quantified proposals, and that means not just spending figures, but realistic revenue sources too. And they must adhere to realistic timelines. Success isn't just about ambition, it requires that delicate balance marrying budgetary rigor with ambitious social goals and real productive transformation.
And did the GPE highlight any specific areas that absolutely must be prioritized to make future programs more feasible, more credible?
Yes. They pointed to 3 critical areas that need to be central, transversal priorities for any serious government moving forward. First, really strengthening environmental sustainability. It's largely absent or too superficial right now, and it needs to be woven into the fabric of development, not just an afterthought. Second, making institutional reform and the anti-corruption fight absolutely central. Not just a chapter in the plan, but the foundational mechanism enabling everything else to succeed. And third, maintaining human capital development, education, health, skills as an absolute non-negotiable priority across all sectors, investing in people.
Environment, institutions, people. Okay, so the GPE didn't just grade the current homework, did they? They also looked ahead, suggesting how the whole process, the quality of the political offer itself, could be improved in Cameroon for the future.
Exactly. They didn't just stop at pointing out the flaws. They identified these persistent programmatic gray areas, places where pretty much all the plans are still fuzzy, especially around long-term financial sustainability and critically implementation capacity. So they proposed a pretty bold, proactive step, launching a dedicated in-depth research program specifically focused on understanding and fixing these structural weaknesses.
So moving beyond just evaluating finished programs after the fact, and instead developing tools to help political parties build better, more realistic programs before the next election cycle even begins.
Precisely, that's the idea. This proposed research would have two main aims. First, really digging into the macro-financial sustainability of ambitious development programs, rigorously modeling how you can actually finance big goals without wrecking the budget or causing instability down the line. Second, and this is really interesting, developing robust capacity and governance indicators.
Capacity and governance indicators, what would those do?
The idea is to find ways to actually quantify the cost of bureaucracy, the efficiency of institutions, to identify the minimum institutional prerequisites needed for any major reform to even have a chance of succeeding. It shifts the focus from just scoring the ideas themselves to building a better understanding of the state's actual ability to implement any idea effectively. It's about improving the governing framework itself.
That is a fundamental quotient, isn't it? It goes way beyond this specific election. And it leaves us, and you the listener, with a final provocative thought to consider. How can we accurately measure the state's real capacity to deliver on promises before those promises are even made? Something crucial to think about. Thank you so much for walking us through this incredibly detailed and, I think, vital analysis today.
It was a pleasure. It's complex stuff, but this GPE study really does offer crucial tools to help move the national conversation from pure rhetoric towards hopefully more reality-based debate.
We certainly encourage you, our listeners, to use this kind of critical framework as you evaluate the ideas being put forward for Cameroon's future. Until next time on The Deep Dive, keep digging deeper.